While my husband was away on deployment, I struggled to keep up with yard work while managing two young kids. One morning, my neighbor left a note taped to my door. "Your lawn is a disgrace. Clean it up or we'll handle it for you." I worked myself to exhaustion, trying to keep up. Then, one day, I came home to find that they had mowed my lawn and stolen every garden decoration, pulled out our flowers, and planted "keep off" signs all over my property. When I confronted them, they laughed and said, "Be grateful. It looks better without your junk." We live in Killeen, Texas, near Fort Cavazos. It's a quiet neighborhood, mostly military families, older couples, and a few retirees. Daniel left in early spring. I stayed behind with our two boys, Evan, 5, and Noah, 3. I work part-time at a clinic. Between that, the kids, the house, and everything else, I was barely holding it together. Yard work was always last on the list. At first, I tried. I really did. I mowed when I could. I weeded the flower beds. Evan even helped by picking up sticks and watering the plants. But Texas heat is no joke. The grass grew fast. The weeds grew faster. That's when the first note showed up. The note: "Your lawn is a disgrace. Clean it up or we'll handle it for you." No name. Just taped to my front door in bright red ink. I knew exactly who sent it. Dave and Sharon Miller. They lived right across the street. Retired. No kids. Their yard looked like something out of a magazine. Every flower bed edged perfectly. The grass was like a green carpet. They sat outside every morning drinking coffee and watching the neighborhood like hawks. I tried not to let it get to me. I worked harder. I mowed every few days. I pulled weeds even when I was dead tired. But the more I worked, the more notes appeared. "Your yard still looks terrible. We warned you." Sometimes they weren't even notes. Sometimes it was just Sharon standing at the edge of their driveway, arms crossed, shaking her head like I was some sort of criminal for not having a perfect lawn. One day in July, after a long shift, I came home with the boys. My lawn had been mowed. At first, I thought maybe someone was trying to help. That thought lasted about 2 seconds. All my garden decorations were gone. The ceramic turtles my mom gave me before she passed. Gone. The solar lights the boys picked out at Home Depot. Gone. The wind spinner Daniel surprised me with last Christmas. Gone. Worse, they ripped out my flowers. My little flower beds were torn up and replaced with gravel. Ugly metal signs staked into the ground said, "Keep OFF." I stood there, shaking. Evan grabbed my hand and asked, "Mommy, why did somebody ruin our garden?" That was the moment I broke. They were on the porch, sipping iced tea like they were royalty. "You took my things," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You had no right." Sharon didn't even blink. "Be grateful. It looks better without your junk." Dave actually laughed. "We warned you." The whole neighborhood was tired of looking at it. I called the police. An officer came out. He was nice, but said unless I had proof they stole the items or damaged the yard, there wasn't much he could do. Civil matter. I felt helpless. But only for a minute. Then I got angry. First, I gathered every note they'd left. Took photos. Dated everything. Second, I pulled property records. Found out they'd been cited twice before for violating HOA rules. Unauthorized landscaping changes. Quiet little fines they probably thought no one noticed. Third, I checked the property line. Turns out, part of what they thought was their manicured side yard, it was actually city easement. They didn't own it. They'd planted bushes and put up edging there anyway. Illegal. Fourth, I made a burner Facebook account and joined our neighborhood group. I started posting little stories about anonymous bullies damaging people's property and neighbors overstepping boundaries. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. People started sharing their own stories. Turns out, the Millers had done similar things before. Quiet bullying. Passive-aggressive notes. Yard tampering. Fifth, I waited for Daniel to come home. He wanted to storm over and confront them right away. I stopped him. "We'll do this the right way," I said. We hired a surveyor. Had the property line officially marked. Put up small, tasteful boundary markers. Nothing aggressive. Just facts. We filed a formal complaint with the HOA. Documented everything, the notes, the destruction, the previous violations. Then we took them to small claims court. Not for a huge amount, just enough to cover the stolen decorations and the damage to the yard. It wasn't about money. It was about principle. Daniel built raised flower beds inside our property line. We planted hardy, low-maintenance flowers. The boys helped. We bought new solar lights. Not as flashy as before. Simple. Elegant. A custom-made wooden sign with our family name went up near the front steps. And, most importantly, we installed security cameras. Front yard. Backyard. Fully visible. The message was clear. Try it again. We dare you. The HOA fined the Millers for destroying our yard and making unauthorized changes. The city ordered them to remove the illegal gravel and bushes from the public easement. Their side business, an unlicensed lawn care gig they ran for cash under the table, was shut down. I'd reported it to code enforcement. Turns out they weren't supposed to be operating any business from their home. We won the small claims case. They were ordered to pay for the decorations, the plants, and some of the labor costs. Not a fortune, but enough. And the neighborhood? They turned on the Millers. Neighbors started sharing their stories openly now. Some even admitted they'd stayed quiet out of fear before. Not anymore. By October, the Millers' once perfect lawn was a mess. They couldn't afford the upkeep without their illegal business. Their porch, once their throne, sat empty. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd stop. For a while, they did. The fines, the court ruling, and the neighborhood's cold shoulder seemed to keep them in check. But bullies don't change. They just wait. One night in November, around 11:30 p.m., the motion sensor lights on the front yard came on. I checked the camera feed. Sharon. She was in a hoodie, sneaking across our yard. In her hands? A can of spray paint. I watched in disbelief as she bent down near our front steps, shaking the can. Before she could even spray, Daniel was out the front door like a shot. Sharon. His voice echoed down the street. She froze like a deer in headlights. By the time I grabbed my phone to call the police, she had dropped the can and was trying to speedwalk back across the street. The cops came. She denied everything, of course. Claimed she was just out for a walk. Didn't matter. We had the video. This time, it wasn't a civil matter. This time, it was criminal trespassing and attempted vandalism. She was cited and given a court date. After Sharon's arrest, Dave tried to play the sympathy card. He came over one afternoon while Daniel was at work. He actually knocked on my door. I didn't open it. I spoke through the Ring doorbell. "Hannah," he said, voice tired. "Let's end this. We're neighbors. This has gotten out of hand." "Funny," I said. "You didn't think it was out of hand when you destroyed my yard or when your wife tried to vandalize my house." He sighed. "We've had some financial trouble. Sharon's been stressed. We made mistakes. Can't we just move past this?" I almost laughed. "You should have thought of that when you called my things junk. You brought this on yourselves." I shut the app. I didn't want to hear another word. A few days later, I got a letter from the city. Dave had filed a complaint against me. He claimed our new flower beds violated code. That our cameras were pointed at their house and invading their privacy. That we were harassing them. I smiled when I read it. The flower beds had already been approved by the HOA. The cameras were perfectly legal and only covered our own property. And harassment? Please. I submitted all my paperwork and camera footage to the city. The complaint was dismissed immediately. But I wasn't content with just winning. I wanted this to end once and for all. Early December. A for sale sign appeared in the Miller's front yard. I could hardly believe it. But then, one evening, there was a knock at my door. Not Dave. Not Sharon. Their daughter. She looked nothing like them. Kind eyes. Tired. Probably in her late 30s. "I'm so sorry," she said as soon as I opened the door. I didn't know how bad things had gotten. My mom and dad, they've always been difficult. But this, I had no idea. I didn't say anything. I convinced them to sell. They can't keep up anymore. The fines, the legal stuff. They're overwhelmed. She paused. "I'm not asking you to forgive them. But I wanted you to know. I'm sorry. For everything." For the first time in months, I felt the anger in my chest loosen. Just a little. I nodded. "Thank you for saying that." I thought that was the end. I really did. By late December, the Miller's house was under contract. A young couple, both soldiers, had made an offer. The for sale sign had a bright pending sticker across it. The neighborhood felt lighter. But Sharon wasn't finished. The night before their moving day, just after midnight, the cameras picked up motion again. Daniel and I were already asleep. It was Evan who woke me. "Mommy, the lights are on outside." I grabbed my phone and pulled up the feed. Sharon. Her car was packed, trunk open. She was in our yard again. This time, she wasn't alone. Dave was with her. They weren't vandalizing. They were trying to dig up the flower beds we had built. Like they thought they could take them or destroy them before leaving. I woke Daniel. "They're out there." By the time he threw on his shoes and grabbed his phone to call the cops, they had yanked up 3 of the smaller plants and were trying to rip the raised beds apart. Daniel didn't say a word. He just turned on every floodlight we had and stepped outside. They froze. Caught red-handed again. But this time, it wasn't just us watching. The young couple buying their house had just pulled up, returning from a late-night base visit. They saw the whole thing. The husband, still in uniform, shouted, "What the hell are you doing?" Sharon tried to stammer out some excuse. Dave looked like he might cry. The police showed up within 10 minutes. Charges were filed for trespassing and destruction of property, again. The buyers almost backed out. They didn't want the headache of neighbors like the Millers, even if they were leaving. But after we showed them the camera footage and confirmed the Millers were moving, they went through with the sale. 2 weeks later, the Millers were gone. Their daughter came one last time to apologize. She even offered to pay for the plants they damaged on their way out. I refused. "It's over now," I said. "Let's just leave it." For the first time since Daniel left on deployment, I felt peace in my own home. The boys were happy. The new neighbors were kind. The Millers moved to a small town about 2 hours away. For a while, it was quiet. No more drama. No more stress. I focused on my family. We rebuilt the yard fully by spring. I even added a small memorial spot in the garden with a new ceramic turtle for my mom. Life felt good. But the past has sharp edges. 3 months later, I got a certified letter from a law office. The Millers were suing us. They claimed we had damaged their reputation, created emotional distress, and caused financial hardship leading to the loss of their home. I stared at the letter in disbelief. After everything they'd done, they blamed me. Daniel was ready to countersue immediately. But I had another idea. I made everything public. I gathered every piece of evidence, the notes, the video footage, the police reports, the HOA fines, the court rulings, even the Facebook posts from other neighbors. I submitted it all to our lawyer. But more importantly, I shared the whole story in the neighborhood Facebook group, not under a burner account, under my real name. Neighbors backed me up. They shared their own experiences again. Some even sent in written statements. Then, without warning, the Miller's own daughter reached out. She told me her parents were now renting a rundown duplex. Their lawsuit wasn't about justice. It was about trying to get money they didn't have. She offered to testify against her own parents if the case went to court. Once their lawyer saw our mountain of evidence and realized their daughter was willing to speak out, the Millers dropped the lawsuit. But dropping it didn't fix the damage they'd done to themselves. Turns out, when they listed me and Daniel in the lawsuit, it became public record. When their new landlord found out they were trying to sue military families over past grudges, they were evicted. No one in that town would rent to them after that. Word spreads fast in small places. Last I heard, they moved in with Sharon's sister, 2 counties over. They lost everything. For months, my life had revolved around getting even. Proving I was right. Crushing them. And I did. I won. But it came at a price. I was exhausted. I'd spent time, money, and energy I'll never get back. I missed moments with my kids because I was reviewing camera footage or speaking to lawyers. I lost sleep. Even after the Millers were gone, I kept looking out the window at night. Like I was still waiting for the next attack. Daniel finally sat me down. "You won, Hannah," he said gently. "It's over. But if you keep living like it's not, they still control you." That hit hard. He was right. So I stopped. I let go. I turned the cameras toward the driveway only, no more watching the whole yard. I planted more flowers with the boys. Not to replace what was lost, but to start fresh. We hosted a barbecue with the new neighbors and the families who had stood by us. For the first time in a long while, I felt free. The Millers destroyed my yard, my decorations, and tried to break my spirit. In the end, they only destroyed themselves. And I learned that real revenge isn't about crushing people. It's about taking back your peace and never letting them steal it again.